CIPM is an MCIPM. He has more than 15 years of experience spanning FMCG, banking, and management consulting. He helps with organization, transformation, and business improvement efforts via the design and deployment of service offerings in the areas of strategic planning and execution, business process outsourcing, amongst others. I don't want to say his name now. He holds a first degree in industrial chemistry, master's degree in information systems, and he is an alumnus of Harvard Kennedy School of Government. He is a full member of CIPD, as I said earlier. He's a member of CIPD, UK, and a member of the Society of Human Resource Management, SHRM. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the microphone, to the podium, Mr. Bolaji Olagunju, MCIPM.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for coming to my session. I had a bit of challenge putting together the material, and that was because the field of HR analytics that I'm expected to talk about is very wide. So what do I do within 1 hour 15 minutes? So I decided to practice what I preach. I wanted to do a survey of whether people wanted to listen to HR analytics masterclass today, and why they wanted to do that. So I engaged some of my colleagues to help me ask around, why do you want to attend HR analytics and what do you want to get out of it? And the feedback was very, very disappointing. Okay? For 3 reasons. The first reason, I assumed that people wanted to come for the session because of me, to come and listen to me. Only to realize that most people don't know me from a can of paint, you know? In fact, it was only one person that was going to come because of me. And that was my mom. Mom, thanks for coming. Okay, the second reason was that because I was expecting that people were coming to listen to me, all my presentation, 1 hour of my presentation focused on talking about me. So I had to start all over again. So I didn't sleep overnight preparing for the session. Okay? Third reason, very painful. Because I didn't accept the first result of the analytics, I decided to get some secret agents to do another survey to help me check whether people wanted to come and listen to me or not. So I had them to survey my staff as well. Guess what? They didn't plan to come and listen to me. They wanted to come and attend the session. So we'll be having some career conversations on Monday. You all know what that means. Okay, but jokes apart, we need to find out that people wanted to attend analytics for 4 main reasons. The first one is application. So how many people wanted it because of the application, whatever? So people said, I want to know how to do analytics. So raise your hand if you came because of application focus. Okay, that's good. Secondly, people said they wanted takeaways. Framework, tools, techniques. If you fall into this category of page ignorant, so you want tools, techniques, takeaway. And then people wanted to know how it affects their career and how they can use the knowledge to affect their business positively. So if you fall into that category, please read around. And then finally, they said they wanted it to be fun and interesting. In fact, somebody said that books and materials on data analytics are so complex, so difficult, so they wanted it to be simplified, demystified, and then interesting and fun. Please raise your hand if you're in that category. Okay, I'm here to do the last category. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. So in terms of the program, welcome once again to the HR Analytics program, Masterclass. Analytics has become one of the most important topics in the human resource body of knowledge, okay, because of the capacity to transform organizational performance, okay, the game-changing capacity of the intervention. And when it is done right, the benefits are really, really, really big, okay? Companies are doing unbelievable things with data analytics, unimaginable things, and they're using it to create huge value, okay, for their organization. So consider 2 companies, okay, to start. I'll tell you a story. A retail company, one they've done successfully with analytics, and another a telecoms company. So for the retail company, a man walked into a mall demanding to see the manager. And he was shouting, my daughter is still in high school, and you're sending her coupons for baby clothes and kids. Are you trying to encourage her to get pregnant? Okay. The manager was surprised. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. So the man brought out evidence that this you address to my daughter and you send it to her house. So when you confirmed it, the manager actually apologized. Okay? A few days later, the manager called up the man to apologize again that we're really sorry, it must have been a mistake. But guess what? This time, the girl's father says, it turns out that there have been some activities in my house I haven't been completely aware of. She's due in what? August. I owe you an apology. The question, how did the company know the girl was pregnant long before the father found out? Everybody say analytics. Okay, so what the company did was they have huge data of customers and their buying behavior, their buying pattern, what they bought over time. And they use different analytic techniques that we'll be discussing today. Okay? Trend analysis, sizing, customer profiling, customer behavioral issues to identify exactly what people normally buy when they're pregnant. Okay? So, once you buy one thing, and then the second one, they can almost predict the situation that you're in and what is going on in your life. It is that detailed. And they use that to upsell and cross-sell. These are similar things that Amazon does. Okay, so if you buy one thing, so they even Punga, Jume, if you buy one thing, so if you buy a TV, and then a freezer, and then an AC, what does that mean? Okay, you just move out, okay, and then they can sell you what again? Washing machine, stabilizer, and the rest. So people use analytics to what? Predict what you're going to do next. And prediction is very, very important for organizations, okay? So we'll do that. The second is a telecoms company. Okay, one of the things they wanted to do was, they wanted an indicator to know whether, something to help them identify high net worth customers as quickly as possible. As a matter of fact, within 2 weeks of you buying the line, they want to quickly profile you, know whether you're going to be important to the business on the long term or not, and then carry out some intervention to ensure that they keep you loyal to them. So, they leverage their existing customer data again to gain insight and information into what exactly predicts the success of a high network individual on their platform. So they looked at frequency of calls within the first 2 weeks. They found out that if you make certain number of calls within the first 2 weeks, you fall within that what? Profile. They consider duration of calls. They looked at type of phone. Okay? Whether it's high-end smartphone or the other type of phone. And then they use the user's residence. So if you're staying around Maitama or Banana Island, in Lagos, all those high network areas, and they know that, okay, yeah, we should treat this person very well. Then finally, they use the user's what? Network of influence. They wanted to know the people you call. So if you're the person that wakes up in the morning and you first call Dangote before it's 8 o'clock, and then by 8:30 you're calling vice president, and then by 10 you're calling to the Lumelu and the like, they know that, you know what, we want you as a key customer. So they put all that together, they gain insight, so they can quickly profile you and know that, okay, well, this is a very important customer. What do you do with that information? Okay, you assign a key account manager to that what person, okay? You put them on a separate call center so that when they call, people pick the call immediately, and then you sell products and services to them to keep them, okay? Businesses are doing this because, based on VUCA, with everybody, what is VUCA? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and then ambiguous. Okay? Because of those factors, organizations require what? Predictability in their business. They need the business to be a lot more predictable. So, analytics is very important, and the important lie in the area of helping organizations to gain what? Add to duplicate competitive advantage. Because you're working with your data, okay? Your data belongs to you, and the extent to which you can use your data effectively is what will actually create the difference for you, okay? And every organization has different functions, from marketing to finance to operations, and every single one of them can help the organization gain advantage by using their own what? Internal data, or using the entire data of the organization together. But HR is not coming to the party. Okay? If you look at this chart, you can see the further you go away from the IM, the further you go away from the what? C-suite. So when you say that HR is not invited to the table, this is part of the reason. Okay, because when they look at the data, they found out that HR is the least function in organization as far as the major function that is truly using analytics to help the business go far. So no wonder the CEO will want the finance people to be, they'll call the finance people first, call sales people first, marketing before they consider HR. So as HR people, we need to do a lot more with respect to helping an organization use analytics, okay, to be successful. So do we all agree that we want to do that? Yeah. Okay, so why is HR struggling with analytics? So it's not really good enough for us. We need to be a lot more, hello? Something like that. Okay, so it's not really good enough. As HR people, we need to be a lot more evidence-based. So everybody say evidence-based. Evidence-based. Okay, we also need to be more data-driven. HR have a tendency to assume a lot. Okay? We use perception, just like my perception that people are coming to listen to me and not, okay? So we tend to assume and arrive at a conclusion without data to back up our claims. Okay? Very, very important. We need to leave assumptions. There are two primary approaches to making decisions, and HR fall into one. Okay, there's one that is opinion or perception-based in decision making, and the other is evidence-based. Okay, the business desperately need HR to be making decisions based on evidence. But where we find most HR is what? In the realm of what? Opinion. Okay, it's all about perception, it's all about our opinion. HR is gradually becoming a science where you can actually use data to predict especially what your employees will do, how they will react to issues, and whether they will be performing effectively on their job or not. And that is what the business needs at this point, so that the business can be a lot more predictable. So, there are three critical questions for our profession as HR. And the extent to which you can answer these questions is the extent to which you'll be a lot more effective in supporting our businesses to achieve their goals and objectives. So, number one, what are the most important activities HR should engage in? Okay? They call that HR what? Doables. Everybody say HR doables. What are the most important things HR should actually engage in? What are those things? What are those activities that HR should engage in? So that's one. Number two, how should the success of an HR function be measured? Okay? That's HR measurable or HR what? Metrics. How should the success of an HR organization or function should be measured? And then thirdly, what are the most important results or outcomes that HR function should deliver? Those are called what? HR what? Deliverables. So the HR deliverables, HR measurables, and then HR deliverables drive everything we do as HR professionals. And you cannot answer this question effectively without analytics. So analytics is important. Any other thing that you do outside analytics is guesswork, really, and it will not drive the organizational performance, okay? And it will not get you invited to the table. So, the aim of this session is three. One, I'm hoping by some of the content I'll share with you over the next 1 hour, they will help us become more data-driven in our approach to taking HR decisions and approach HR from an evidence-based point of view. That's one. Number two, I'm hoping that we'll be able to understand the required capabilities, okay, that we need to implement HR analytics. And then finally, we'll also focus on practical uses, real-world examples, and outcomes, okay? What are those organizations using HR analytics, okay? How has it benefited them, and what are the things we can learn from them? Key features of the program. One, empirical. So this is research-based, okay? This is research into some of the best practices in terms of what organizations are doing in the area of data. So you'll be getting a lot in that regard. Prioritization is 1 hour. So we'll focus on the key things that you can take away and then do something about. Also application. So the program is application focused. So we'll be looking at how do you apply it when you get back to work. And finally, exploration. I'm hoping that I'll also be able to learn from the audience. So I'll be throwing out some key questions as we go along. Okay? So this is my session outline. We look at definitions, very, very important, briefly, but the definitions are important to set the foundation. We look at insight sources. There's something about analytics and that has to do with insights, data, and big data. We look at that. And then why, what, why, and who, okay? So what is HR analytics now? So there's analytics and then there's HR analytics. Analytics is for everybody in the business, but HR analytics focus on what HR does with analytics, right? So we look at HR analytics, what, why, and the who. And then HR analytics application, I know that's why a lot of people are here, and then we put it all together with a case study, okay? Are you all with me? Yes. Okay, so let's go. So module 1. So what is analytics? Analytics is defined as the scientific process of transforming data into insights for making what? better decisions. So it's a scientific process, it's almost like exact science, okay? And then you transform data into insight for making better decisions, okay? I deliberately highlighted those 2 points, data into insight. So everybody say data into insight. So let's go over. Then number 2, the goal of analytics is to get insight from data which can be used to make what? Improvements or changes to business, or even individual sometimes. So again, we see the 2 words, what? Insight and what? Data. Okay. So people always ask, how do you get insight? Where does insight come from? Because insight is so key, to building predictability into an organization system. So where does insight come from? So Moscali said nothing is more terrible than acting without what? Insight. It's really, really bad to go ahead and do things without insight. So, but what are the sources of insight? There are 4 primary sources of insight. And if you don't take anything from this program, take this. Insight comes from 4 primary sources. Number 1, context. Everybody say context. Context matters a lot, okay? In terms of the situation. You can add data, okay? But if you don't look at that data from context perspective, you can actually miss the road. According to research into 9/11, they found out that the US actually had data to predict that 9/11 was going to happen, okay? A security agency of another country informed them that there was going to be airstrike against the UN. The people that had the information laughed. Why? Because it's difficult. Before you lift your plane from where the country you're coming from to come and strike them, it's literally impossible. But they didn't what? As they didn't understand context. It was airstrike, but with what? A commercial purpose. Okay, so by missing context, you can actually miss a lot of things. So context matters as far as the thought. The second point is customer. Okay, especially as HR people, we can gain a lot from our internal and external customers. Okay, we can gain so much. So customer matters a lot. The third is question. The quality of questions we ask will determine what we can do. In fact, analytics are actually answers to questions. Okay? HR analytics are answers to HR related questions. So we'll look at that. And then finally, models of framework. Okay? You need framework to be able to put things into perspective and then to think through exactly how you're going to use your data for impact of the organization. So if you look at the context, let me share a story with you. So there's a man who has a son, just one child, and he's very proud of his son. Okay? He's always spending time with his son. And he's fond of telling the boy to always believe in his heritage. Okay? That whatever happens, no matter what, be proud of where you're from, be a black man, and you must always own up and be proud of it. So he kept going on. So they grew up. So one day they decided to travel, they live in the Bahamas, so they decided to travel to another Caribbean country. And they have this plane, about 25 carrier planes that they normally take to shuttle around the Caribbean states. So halfway through their journey, the plane developed a fault. Okay, and they had to drop. So the pilot said the only way to save them is to drop some of the bags. So they dropped off the bags, but they still had problems. So they needed to drop 2 passengers. Okay? So they decided, so how do we pick the people to drop? We're 25 on the plane. And then somebody came up with an ingenious idea. They noticed that there are only 2 blacks. So they said, you know what? Let's select the people that will drop based on origin, where they came from, right? So everybody agreed and then they started. Okay, so any African in the plane, the man kept quiet. The son looked at his dad. Okay, so okay, maybe whatever. So any African, nobody said anything. So they moved to B. Okay, is there any black African on the plane? The man didn't say anything. And that's why the son tapped the dad. Dad, we should speak up. The dad looked at him, gave him a bad look and said, because I keep quiet then. So they said, okay, anybody from the Caribbean region on the plane? That's C. At that point, the dad said, well, Dad, you say I should always be proud of my heritage. So the man looked at the son and said, son, today we are Zulus. We're what? Zulus. So before they come to them, we'll remain on the plane. Okay, but what does that tell you? Situation matters a lot. If you ever borrow the framework or best practices from any country or from another company and you use it and it didn't work for you, it is lacking in what? Context. It is lacking in what? So your context matters a lot. And organization need to understand context from that point of view. And whatever you do, always confront your own internal reality. The second is customer. So you know the Americans love their dog more than human beings. Love their dog, seriously. So there's a company that beats this too, okay? There's a company that actually make and sell dog food. Okay? So they decided that, look, we want to grow this company to another level. So they did a customer survey of all the dog owners that they know and said, look, what will really make the difference for you if you can do it to our dog food? And they said, look, if you can put anything, any nutrient that can make the dogs live longer. Okay, we all know that averagely dog between 10 and 13 years. So if you can put anything, any ingredient that will make the dog live longer, then we'll buy. Really, so they spend millions of dollars researching, and then they found the formula that can actually extend dog's life. So they incorporated it into the dog food and advertising everything, and then they started selling it. Within the first 2 weeks, all the first set of food they produced, everybody bought everything. So they were really, really excited, and then they produced more, and then people stopped buying. They were shocked that, what's going on? Okay? So they went back to the customer and said, why did you stop buying? Why? The dog didn't like the food. Okay? So what does that tell us? Who is the customer? Okay? And they missed that. And sometimes in nature, we miss who our true customers are. Okay? And we can gain a lot of insights, huge insights from them. Okay? So customers also matter. They are major sources of insight. And finally, question. Okay, sorry. Third question. Endogenic says if you don't know how to have the right question, you discover what? Nothing. Questions are very, very important. Powerful stuff. Okay? And the quality of questions you have matters a lot. So let's look at some questions. Okay? Questions like how do you grow a business? Then you have from HR point of view. Okay? What can you contribute? Okay? What are the key drivers of our success or performance? And how can we do something about it? What culture or capabilities are essential to grow a business? What obstacles do we face and how will we? These are very, very important questions that we in HR must seek answers to. And it is in seeking answers to them that we can now use analytics to transform our business. Because those answers will mean a lot to every single one of our businesses. This is very important. And then finally, framework. Okay? So I want everybody within 30 seconds to count 1 to 54. Together, everybody, there, start. No. You pick it out on the board, sorry. You look for the number on the board and call it out. So you start. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, who got the anybody at 15? Okay, why? Because number is what? But when you introduce framework, okay, when you bring in framework or model, it changes everything. So can you count now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Can you see the difference? That is the power of what? Framework. Everybody say framework. As HR professional, you need to ask yourself, for whatever intervention you want to engage in, what framework are you using? Because, see, it gives you an approach. Okay? It sets what? The standard. Okay? It gives you a basis to interact with any of the knowledge. And one of the things we're going to do today is what? Share framework on what? Analytics. So that you can take it back and use those frameworks. One of the most important framework in analytics is this. Okay? It's called the 4I framework for thinking about analytics. The first I, information, you ask yourself, what is going on here? Okay? What is going on within my business? And the second I is insight. What is going on mean? So if you see data and you look at data and you look at the information, what is this information telling me and what can I extract in terms of insight from it? The third is intervention. So you've got an insight. What can I do with this insight that I have? Okay, and the fourth is what? Impact. There's no point in doing analytics if you do not positively impact your business. Okay? So the 4I, information, insight, intervention, and what? Impact. Okay, very, very important. So we'll be using this framework as we go, and this is a sample template. I understand that the material will be uploaded by next week, so you can also use sample template basically. So what is our HR or workforce business issue? Okay? what information do we need, questions do we need to ask to extract insight? So what do we learn from the data? What kind of intervention can we carry out, okay, to ensure that we leverage the insight to create what? The desired impact for our business. So that's one framework that you can use to do analytics. Data, let's talk about data, okay? Ronald Cohen said if you capture data long enough, it will what? Every single data have diamonds of insight hidden within them. Every single one. So if you analyze it rigorously and you stay on it, it will tell you critical information that you can use. Okay? So, in, I think 2012, Harvard Business School brought out this, I think October, Harvard Business Review published this article on big data. If you can get the issue value for it, it changed everything, okay? Because contained in the article was examples of what organizations are doing secretly to actually capture customers' data and then transform the organization and then go very, very far ahead. Okay? So there's a lot of content there, but it emphasizes something, that you use data for strategic what? Decision making. That whatever you want to take a decision and it's strategic, whatever you do, look for what? Data. First look for the data, analyze the data, and don't go ahead with opinion or perception. So what is data? Simple. Information in its raw or what? Organized form. Okay? So information is either existing in structured form or unstructured form. And when data is structured, it's when it's your Excel file or your database management system, and it has all the fields, all the headings, everything is structured. But we have a lot of unstructured data as well. Okay? So if you look at data across the organization, I know some companies that have invested in Oracle, but most HR work is still being done in Excel. Okay, and then they have some in hard copy file. Okay, and then they have some in people's head. People's head. And then it goes on and on. Okay, when you have data aggregated that way, it is what? Unstructured and it's untagged. So, what is big data? Is this big data? Is this big data? Context. Okay, depends on the context that you're looking at it for. Okay, if you are looking at it in terms of font size, okay, it's bigger than the rest of the other fonts on the page. But if you look at the concept of 419 and what we know it to be, there's a lot of data there. Okay? You can start looking at, okay, how many people do 419 in Nigeria? Okay? What kind of 419 do they do? How do they do it? Okay? When do they do it? And then you can start getting what data. And what happens is, based on that, you can get a lot. So big data is simply the term applied to fast-moving large volume of information available in the digital era. We're in the digital era. Every day, people post to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. People upload pictures and all that. That's a lot of data. People send text messages. People call on the internet, WhatsApp messages. That's a lot of data coming together. Data from devices, cell phone, purchase, transaction. So huge amount of data. And the larger the size of data, the more its predictability power. But when you can look at a large data and then you see patterns that people are taking this, people are doing this consistently, then it means that if you build your business model around that, your chances of succeeding goes up what? Significantly higher. So big data is very, very important. And its characteristics are four. One is voluminous, it's huge. You cannot imagine the size when we're talking about big data. Some organizations have it in abundance. But whether they're doing anything with it is a different ball game. And then it's variety. So it comes at you in different formats. So look at your own data in your organization. It comes in different formats, in different ways. There are some. In fact, some organizations now say, okay, as an employee, when you join, you first go online and fill particular form, so that we don't have to be filling hard copy form again. So data comes from there. Then over time, you do your appraisal. Maybe you do it in another system. Okay, data comes from there. You do your promotion. Okay, you send people on training. Different things. You write policy. Data is just coming at you from every angle. So varieties, and then velocity, the speed at which people are getting data now. Every day, about 1 billion people on Facebook doing one thing or the other. Every single day. Okay, posting stuff. So that's huge. And then veracity, the truth. Okay, the larger the data, then the more it can predict and inform information. So that is about analytics. So I'll move on to HR analytics now. What, who, and why. Without analytics, companies are blind and deaf, wandering out of the business arena like a deer on a what? Freeway. When you don't have data, you are literally blind because you can't really do things that will transform whatever it is that you're doing. So data is very important. So what is data analytics? I want everybody to read this. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay? The process of transforming workforce and what? Human resource function data. So there's the data on your workforce and then there's the data on your HR function activity. Okay? The that we use in HR, they are not really good enough, okay, anymore. Okay? A lot of HR still use time to hire and cost to hire. They are okay, but it doesn't drive what? Business what? Performance. The fact that you recruited very fast doesn't mean that the person you recruited is able to do what? Deliver on the job. Okay, so add something to it, like quality of what? Hire. Recruiters should never be evaluated based on the people they recruit. You can't evaluate a recruiter's performance until 6 months afterwards. Why? What coincides with 6 months? Confirmation. So how many people have been recruited that will confirm on the dot of 6 months without any extension, back and forth and all that? That should be the basis for rating recruiters, for instance. So this number of training days per year. Hello? What does that mean exactly? There's a company that had this in their performance management, in their scorecard, in their employee scorecard. So what happens is, once it is getting towards appraisal period, end of the year, people will run to the training school and be checking the door. Which course is this? Okay, you see treasury management. I'm in IT. Let me just enter and then fill my name and then what? Meet up with my number of units. So how does that drive business performance? Okay? It has to go beyond what? Number of training. It has to be on the impact that the training, and that's why ROI of playing is so huge right now. Okay? Summary of turnover, I've said this. Okay? You can't give summary of turnover. You understand about percentage. You need to segment your turnover data. Okay? This is the number of people have resigned in this segment. Okay? And that means you need to have segmented your workforce. Okay? Your critical role, your core role, your support role, whatever. If all your bottom performers are leaving, it's actually a thing to celebrate. There's no problem with that. Okay? So very important. And then cost of compensation benefits, HR staff per ratio. I don't even know why people bother with this, whatever. Should it be 1 HR staff to 100 employees? Look, if you're creating value, why should that matter? Okay? What does that do for the business at the end of the day? So, HR analytics, where are you? In the poll. If you're at level 1, raise your hand. That's basic reporting. Raise your hand. There's no camera, please don't capture them. Level 2, raise your hand. Level 3, raise your hand. A lot of level 3. That's fantastic. Level 4. If no matter what I say, you won't raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay? So a research was done, and they looked at HR analytic maturity model. 86% of companies surveyed are focused on what? Their reporting, either basic or advanced. 10% analytics, and only 4% look at predictive analytics, where actually help the organization prepare what? For the what? Future. Because the future is so complex and uncertain. So you need to reflect, where are you, and then how do you move forward? The rest of the slide is how we move forward. But let me just share some examples. Okay? Microsoft asked the question, where do our best engineers come from? Okay? We want more of them because then we can impact the business positively, right? It makes sense. So again, we're starting from what? Question or information, what's going on. Remember the 4 I's, okay? So we're starting from information. So they pulled together all their workforce data and then started analyzing, okay? Look for the engineers that are top performing engineers and then correlated the data with their demographic, their school they attended, everything, and then they started seeing something. They saw a pattern. Most of the engineers that are doing extremely well have something in common. A university in Canada called Waterloo University. What a coincidence. Really, what is it with this university? So they went to the university to investigate. You know what they found? The university has a lab where by the time you go through the university, you already have the equivalent of 2 years working experience in an organization like Microsoft. Of course, that changed the game for them. So what will you do with that? Okay, so you've gotten information. Okay, what's going on here? You have insight. Okay, this school is doing something different than other schools. What do you move to? Okay, intervention. What did they do? Let me ask you a question. If you buy a land and you just went there on the weekend to check the land out, and then you see diamond, and then you move again, you see cost of diamond, and you find out that the land is, a diamond mine, what will you do? Okay, so people said they will fence it. Wait, getting the fence. I have this question. Somebody said you get OPC around it. I have a question. How will you fence it? How will you fence it? You know what somebody said? He said they go and learn bricklayer. Because you can't afford for the bricklayer, why they are fencing it? So that's what they did. So they went to the school, adopted them, started sponsoring most of their programs, built a bigger lab for them, worked with them to improve on their curriculum, even sent some of their staff to go and, do, what do they call it, internship, okay, in the school, and then they gave first right of refusal to every single person. If you graduate from this engineering department, yes. If you graduate from this computer engineering department, and you want a job, come to us, you have a job. Okay, that will help them. Okay. So it's very important what you can do with HR data. Sometimes we overlook some of the data you have, but you have demographic data of all your employees. What are the things that differentiate what? Top performance. What are those things? Another company, I think this was IBM, use what they call performance frontier analysis. They look at all their salespeople, okay, and say, look, who are the salespeople that are A performance consistently, irrespective of location, gender, target, whatever it is, they are really just doing very well. So they look at the data and then correlated it with everything that they've got, and then they start seeing what? Patterns. Everybody say patterns. There's a principle of taxonomy, okay? It's defined as the science of finding what? Patterns. That is what analytics is built on. Once you can find patterns that this is what creates success, then you can do what? More of it. So they found out that certain traits was common to most of the people that are doing very well. So they looked at ability to plan effectively, which is a key intervention for salespeople, ability to be organized, and then ability of explaining concept to people. And they found out that most of the people that were doing very well either had military background or they were ex-teachers. So what do you do without insight? What do you do without insight? Let's follow the 4 high framework. What do you do without insight? You move towards intervention. Everybody say intervention. So what was the intervention? They decided to hire more what? Ex-military and then teachers for that particular line of business, and then impact the business shoot up. You must identify what you look. Everybody say this. I must identify why we're successful. You must, so that you can do what? Do more of it. You need to learn the pattern. Okay? Guinness is another example. They actually discovered something strange. That graduate trainees hired with less than 2 years experience go on to you have trend analysis, okay? What has been happening in the past, and then does that predict what? The future. You have sizing and estimation. These are the most common. Then you have profiling, okay? You're profiling people. That if this person has this profile, and that person, that's what that company that was able to predict pregnancy did. They catalog every single thing that you go through from once you conceive till you give birth. And they know that all these are the general things that people will need. These are the ones, including drugs, including some of the things, whatever. And then they use that as a model to build a system that once they have your data and you key in, once you read number 3 item, they know exactly your situation. The next is to now use that to now start upselling to you. So they know that once it's around 5th month, this is what you need. So you just start getting coupons out of nowhere regarding that. Okay? So and it's predicted, they are almost sure that you buy. Isn't that amazing? Okay, that's what predictive analytics does. Okay, profiling is key. Predictive time series, segmentation, and discuss segmentation, and then customer life cycle. Okay, what are the typical life cycle or pattern that a customer goes through? And once I see a customer that lives in this particular area, use this type of mobile phone, call this kind of high network individual, is giving me what? A pattern. Okay, it's telling me that okay, if I see somebody similar, then chances are they belong to this category. So let's explore and take it to the next level. Okay? So in terms of skill sets, analytics skill sets, we require soft skills to do analysis and then a lot of technical skills. Okay? In order to go from inquiry to insight and then insight to impact, you need to have your soft skills and technical skills. So based on what we've done in the past, these are what we've been able to come up with. That you need to have business acumen. Okay, you need to have business literacy. You need to understand the business strategy. You need to understand your industry completely. You need to understand negotiation. Okay, when you want to get data from finance, that's when you know that you need negotiation skills. To get anything out of them is difficult. And sometimes in some organization, finance handle payroll. How do you do HR analytics without that data? So it's very, very important. Project management, of course, you need to know your function, HR function as a function. And then technical skills, you need to know how to mine data, statistics is key, computer programming, database management, data representation, in terms of how you present data, and then quantitative and qualitative research. Very, very important. The people that have done their PhD, they understand the importance of quantitative and qualitative research. So you need this. So if you look at your HR team, okay, and you look at the capabilities of everybody there, you look at the competencies they have, you should be asking yourself, who on our HR team have these technical skills? Because if not, we might need to hire somebody to do it. I've seen HR people do this a lot. Now, we want to start analytics. Who is there that is not busy? You. Yeah. You are an analyst. I'm telling you, in reality, just put this there. And we have the question, what capabilities does this person have to do HR analytics? Okay, so please, we require technical capabilities, and we must ensure that the people there, if they don't have it, please develop them if it's possible, okay? Or look for people that have that background. If you're very good in maths or you read statistics, that would be pretty useful for you. Okay? So putting it all together. So I'm going to tie this up with a case study. My time is running out. Okay? I'm going to tie this up with a case study. You remember this framework? Like I said, if this is the only thing you take out of this program, remember, okay, you must always ask what's going on and what does it mean? What can you do with it? And then what difference? It's all about the impact. It's all about the kind of difference you can make at the end of the day with your data. And then, if you look at information, so let's look at information. Let's just use this as a mini case study. So, what are the leading human capital practices that predict the success of an organization? If anybody asks you that, what would you say? Okay? Or another question, what critical success factor or quality attributes make a great HR function? What is it? What makes you a great, whatever, when you say, okay, maybe you're an HR director, what makes your HR function a superb one, a great one? Or you're an HR manager or whatever, what makes it a great one? From a combination of several landmark researches, okay, into the impact of human resource practices on organizations, there were 8 HR human resource condition that was identified that has to be met to create world-class, best-in-class HR function. Would you like to know them? Yes. Okay. Number 1, ability to hire the right people. Research has shown that 73 to 75% of the success of the organization depends on the quality of people you hire. That high, that if you've got it that right, the rest is easy. So ability to hire people is important. And in terms of best practices, there is hardly any organization that hire right that doesn't have amazing recruitment practices. Okay? Use of different kinds of assessment instruments, assessment center, and the rigor, the process that you take people through. Very, very important. Number 2, a strong performance-oriented culture, very important. They started signaling to this roundup. Number 3, low turnover in superior performance or premium employee group. You can't afford to be losing your superior performer. If you have an organization where superior performance go, who is left? Who is left? It's you that set it up, and the best will leave first. That's in an organization. If your people are going and you don't have a performance management system that forces people out, after a while you end up with an average organization. Yeah. That's what happens. So people will go, but you also must have a system to ensure that you also let people go. A cadre of qualified replacement. What do we call that in HR? Succession planning. Okay, very key. High levels of employee engagement, employee compensation and development, use of competencies, very important. In hiring, performance management, development, competency-based development, very crucial. And then leadership and managerial capabilities. Your leaders matter so much. Okay, I listened to a session yesterday that, look, if all your investment is put on developing leaders, you're spending it wisely, because then they will develop other people. So it has multiple whatever, okay? So, and then you look at what can we do with it. High performance businesses, through analytics, identify where they need to excel, focus energy and resources on those areas, and then measure achievement and impact, okay? So what do? They just look at all the factors that we look at and decide that, look, based on this thing, what do we want to do with it? It's important to be the best on all the HR practices. So you do what? Prioritize. Everybody say prioritize. So you pick the ones where you want to be pioneering. And you say, so this particular illustration, the company wants to be pioneering on what? Hiring right, use of competencies and leadership. And then the rest, you make sure that you're at least making progress. You're progressing. But you must, use data to check. Context matters a lot. You can't just say, no, I'm picking hiring. Why are you picking it? What does your data tell you? Because it's all about what? Insight from your data. So you can use that. So summary of key points. In rounding up, don't forget the ABLES, okay? 3 critical questions for HR profession, okay? We said it. But it's actually, you should think about it in this order, okay? You should start from what? Deliverables. Everybody say deliverables. It is the deliverables that should drive the metrics, which should drive the activities you're engaging. Not the other way around. HR people will always start from the activities we're doing, and then so how do we measure that? No. When you start from the deliverables, that these are the outcomes of a successful HR, then you move into how we can measure these outcomes that are doing well, and then that will automatically, what you should be doing will materialize on its own. Automatically. Okay, so that is the process. Sorry. So at the beginning, I showed you the other way around deliberately. So that is the process. Okay? So how well is your HR organization faring with respect to the 8 human resource condition? Okay? How well are they faring? Where are you on the pole? So if you look at the 8 human resource condition, let's just take one because of time. Hiring people. How well is your organization faring? No, that's easy. Let me pick use of competencies. Okay? How well is your organization faring? If your organization is 1, raise your hand. Raise it well, huh? 1. In terms of 1 means we're struggling, we're just whatever. 5 means we're awesome. So where will you put your organization? If you're 1, raise your hand. Use of competencies in employee selection, development, performance management. I like that. Thanks. If you're 2, raise your hand. Okay. 3, 4, 5. Okay. So, how did you arrive at your answer? I thought HR, we said we're not going to be using opinion or percentage. What data did you use in your analysis? Yeah? What metrics did you employ? What can your organization do to improve your condition? Then you don't have data, okay? And with what confidence are you that that is actually where you are and you have to HR, we need to stop what? Assumption. We need to stop what? Assumption. So everybody read this. 1, 2, 3, go. Very powerful. It's not about your opinion. It's about what the data is what? Telling you. It's all about what the data is what? Telling you. So I want everybody to stand up. Stand up, everybody. Please stand up, everybody. Get ready. We're going to do an exercise. Tell your neighbor, in God I trust. You must bring data. Come to your left. God I trust. You must bring data. Thank you very much, everybody.
We'll just take the questions. We have 5 questions here. The first question is, what is the difference between HR analytics and metrics?
Okay, that comes up. You want to measure how successful you are in an intervention. You need metrics, okay? You also use it to set KPIs so that people are working towards an objective. So it's a unit of measurement. Analytics helps you to answer questions. Okay, so you use analytics to answer questions. What's the relationship between the two? So let's say you want to predict success in a particular way, there has to be a measurement to say, okay, this is what success looks like. But to arrive at the answer to that question, you use what? Analytics. So analytics are answers to questions, while metrics help you to measure whether you're being successful or not.
Thank you, sir. Second question, how do we measure ROI, return on investment, on training?
Okay. Take a plane to Lagos, look for our office, called, jokes apart, really. It's a analytics, you need ROI. For measuring ROI, you need a framework, okay? And like I said, HR should look for framework, on anything that you want to do, okay? The most popular framework in analytics, starts from actually gathering data as well, okay? Understand this, once you start a program, it's already too late to do ROI. Once you started the program, it's what? Already too late. But before you start the program, you start the chance to prove ROI if you gather data. What kind of data are you trying to gather? You call it what? As is. So what's the situation before you run the intervention? Okay? You document it, you codify it, you have it. Then you don't run the intervention as a goal. You pilot test. So you want to ensure that, okay, you take a small group of people and then run the intervention. And then what are you looking for? You want to see whether there's a difference. Okay? And then of course, you need to isolate the effect of training. So data is very, very important in doing analytics, and you must know what is the situation of things. So you want to sell people on a sales training program. How much are they selling before the program? Okay? After the program, what are they selling? Is there any difference? Okay? How can we quantify that difference in monetary terms and say, okay, as a result of and then are there other things that happen around that period of time that will have influenced sales? Okay, all those, so there's a lot to it, but you must have they call it baseline data. Where are we before intervention? So every year you're doing your training plan, and you can't do ROI on all your programs. It is not possible. Okay? You don't even have enough manpower to do it anyway, because ROI is expensive. So you prioritize your strategic program. So every year, organization has between 5 to 10% strategic programs. Okay? Those programs that are linked to driving your organizational goals and objectives. You take them and then you build your ROI models around them.
Thank you, sir. You talked about evidence-based HR. What can HR as a function do to influence a reduction of people cost as a percentage of net sales revenue?
HR and theory, okay? So many things, okay? Say, cost management is actually a competence, okay? And if you want to look at it from an HR point of view, you can't isolate HR and do away with the principle of what? Cost management. So the first thing is identify your cost drivers, okay? And what is really driving the cost. The calculation of HR measurement of, okay, when you want to reduce overhead with respect to individual employee has to take a lot of other things into consideration. So it starts from what are the key drivers. What part of employee life cycle is it that is costly that you want to actually reduce? And then what will the impact of reducing them have on the overall objective of the business? It's also very, very important. But it's really, HR needs to borrow the model, the framework that they use in managing costs in an organization, from identifying the cost driver, reviewing it, and then one of the things we struggle with in Nigeria is data. So it would be good to know the cost profile of your competitor. Okay? And there's different cost elements. And if people are transparent, you can actually see where they're spending money on. You know that you can't do that. You can't do that in financials of your competitor and say, this is the number of staff they have. I should go and employ that. Because they will lump all the data or staff together, whether it's contingent, outsourced, or full-time, and all that. So you really need a benchmark. So to cut costs, you need a benchmark to say, okay, what is the cost profile like in my industry? And then what are the cost drivers? And then what do I do in terms of what can I do without, and then how does it affect the overall picture?
The very last question. What's the ideal HR ratio, your opinion, and why?
Okay, we've already discussed it. You know, a lot of people say one HR staff to 80, some people say to 100. One of the challenges with HR is lack of what standards, okay? You don't have standards. But the answer to that question is this: whatever it takes to deliver optimum business results. And that's the reality. If you need to have 10 HR people to deliver performance and the business can justify that, it's making all the difference. So it's about quality. We're so focused on the number, but the outcome, the result is actually what matters a lot. And you know, outcome is also a function of how cost effective it is. Okay? So you take that into consideration.
Thank you very much. So finally,
question here.
Yeah, we're actually sorry. Time is up, I'm sorry. There's a session going on now which you need to be part of. Yes, time is up. Yes, he said he'll take it offline. And just as he said, the presentation, the slides will be made available to us after the session. So finally, quickly, please, just a minute, please. We all agree that Mr. Olagunju has done a wonderful job in the area of HR analytics. So please, I think we should all wait. Let's give the vote of thanks to these two. So to give the vote of thanks, we'd like to invite a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Mr. Alekan, to please come forward. Sorry. And give the vote of thanks and present the plaque to Mr. Olagunju.
If you torture that, long enough, it will confess. So let's begin to confess in an analytical way and, more importantly, effectively. On that note, I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Bolaji Olagunju for the highly incisive, engaging, impactful discourse. I dare say that you have challenged all of us here to be much more scientific in the way we make our HR postulations and ensure that they impact, on the bottom line and also impact on the business. And I also dare say that one of the cutting edge that consultants like you have over internal consultants like us is that you guys have been able to exude these kinds of technical skills, in the way you articulate. Because I've seen organizations use external consultants for things that internal consultants like us can actually deliver, turnover analysis, you talked about some of them, return on investment, return on equity, and even cultural climate study and all that. I've seen organizations do that. So I dare say that that's the cutting edge, but I can assure you that internal consultants like us will catch up with you. I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Bolaji Olagunju for the excellent job, the CEO of Workforce Group, for coming to us today as guest speaker at the 2015 Annual National Conference held on the 16th of October 2015. And on your behalf and on behalf of the Governing Council of the Institute, I'd like to say a big thank you once again for the excellent job. Thank you. Mr. Olagunju, one thing I did not tell you is that your head office in Bagada, I live just behind. My estate is just behind. So I can assure you that I'll be doing further consultations with you. Thank you so much.